Okay. All right, so I'll call the meeting of the Dover Trails Committee to order at 6:37 PM. And I guess we should first do public comment. Is there any public comment? Wendy, you had your hand up. Go ahead, unmute.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mike, for inviting me to join. I just wanted to let you all know about a project that I am trying to get underway that I have been working on at the school. But obviously it's open to the community because all of the school property is accessible to the town and community members. So what we've been putting together, and Mike's been a big help, is a bike track trail system, or at least a little track on the school campus. I've already created a couple of hiking trails, which could be made into biking trails with a little bit of more cleanup. And Mike has been working on expanding that as well and putting some in that were taken out when they put in the solar garden. So I just wanted to let people know that we were working on that. I do have a plan and pictures of the site and where it would be and what it would look like. I don't know if this is the time that people want to see that, but it is something that I've already put together. So we thought that we had complete funding for it, but at the moment, the AOE, because it was some federal grant funding, they have changed their requirements or changed their what they want to fund. So we're kind of back to the drawing board with funding, and there may be a way to get some school funding with board approval, but we're also looking outside in the community if there's other groups that are interested to help support this project. So I don't know, Mike, maybe you can give some input on where we would go from here or what's appropriate.
I think if you're talking about wanting to request funding through economic development or through the town, that needs to come before Eric, and Eric needs to bring it to the select board. That's the procedure. So this group has no power to actually award money.
Okay.
So if there's interest in requesting money either from the economic development or from the town budget, proposal needs to go to Eric, and Eric needs to bring it to the select board.
Okay.
Eric, you had your hand up.
Wendy, thank you for coming to give us a brief overview. When I talked to Mike the other day, I mentioned it hadn't made it onto this agenda just because we kind of already had a lot going on. But Mike did make it clear that, yeah, this is something we at least wanted the group to be aware of, even if it was going to be funding directly from the select board. This does fall under our trails and recreation jurisdiction. So that I think he definitely wanted us to at least know about it. If the rest of the committee would like to have a further conversation about it, we can do that, or Wendy can present me with the information and I can present that to the select board at the upcoming meeting.
I think that's the process we have to follow.
Okay.
So, okay, I think Mike had his hand up.
Yeah, just to be clear, what Wendy's working on is something that's smaller and more immediate to the campus. And the fellow
Okay,
that
Mike,
created,
I'm going to cut you off, okay? Because this group is not going to make any decisions about that.
no, but we can make a recommendation, right?
No, first it has to come through Eric. If economic development money is being used, it has to come through economic development. And until there's a proposal, I don't think it's an effective use of time for us to discuss it. Once you have a proposal, if you want to present it to Eric, and if Eric sees it coming through trails, he can present it to the committee.
Okay.
It'll go to the select board, or it can go directly to the select board. But to just have a conversation where you're going to describe it, that's not going to be enough meat for anybody to make a decision anyway. So let's wait until we have a written proposal and then go from there. Andy, you had your hand up? Muted, honey. Dear.
Well, I guess, given your comments, Mike's comments, maybe I'll keep my mouth shut. I was just going to say, what a fantastic idea. I'll leave
Oh,
it.
and I don't, yeah, I'm sure nobody disagrees with you, but I just think, you know, the processes that we have to follow are going to be more formal going forward. And so things like written proposals are going to be necessary. So, and I realized I actually jumped out of order. Kristen, did you have something you wanted to bring up?
I just wanted to say thanks to those who marked the Horace Hill trails. I went up there the other day and it really helped me see and visualize the opportunity that we have. It was really clearly laid out and they just did a really fantastic job up there. So I just want to say thanks for that. And just walking those trails, I'm like, we have a lot to accomplish. It's great opportunity, but it'll be interesting to see how all the parts come together.
Thank you. On behalf of the people who did the work, thank you. It wasn't me. Okay, is there any more public comment? Okay, I'm going to move on to what was supposed to be the first item on the agenda. I had the wrong agenda pulled up. Andy?
I had one question.
Patricia, Andy had his hand up. I'm going to let him go first and then you can. Andy, go ahead. Andy, you had your hand up?
Patricia had raised her hand and you didn't see it.
Oh, I thought you were raising. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Patricia.
I just had a question. I wanted to confirm what Wendy was talking about. Is that the Dover Elementary School? Okay.
Yes, it's on the Dover Elementary School campus. So the site is actually right beside the field, the upper field. So yes, it is.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I will reach out through Mike and Eric, and
if you guys could put together some sort of written proposal, particularly if you're going to be asking for funding a budget.
Yeah.
And how, not just a lump sum, but how that money is actually going to get spent.
Okay, exactly.
Okay?
We'll do that. Thank you.
That's going to give you the best possibility of getting a successful answer.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. I just wanted to let you know that this is a project because it does fall into your whole trail system. So,
okay,
great. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, so now the item that was supposed to be the first item was a motion to amend Robert's Rules of Order regarding meeting moderators. According to Robert's Rules of Order, the meeting can only be run by a committee member, but we can vote as a committee to amend Robert's Rules so that we can allow Eric to be the moderator, which to me makes a lot of sense. Typically, he's responsible for 70% or more of the items on the agenda, and it ends up getting tossed back to him anyway. And rather than having a rotating chair, we can stick with somebody for the program. So what I'd like to request is a motion to amend Robert's Rules of Order to permit a non-committee member to serve as the meeting moderator. I need someone to make a motion.
I motion.
Okay, Allison moved. A second?
Second.
Second.
Paul Fisher, second. Okay, all in favor?
Yeah,
Aye. If you don't have your screen open, either do a thumbs up or go to audio and give a voice vote. Jim, Mike, and Tim.
They're just public attendees. All of our committee members are
I
actually.
thought Tim was. No, okay. All right. So, and do we have, I'm sorry, but we have a quorum, correct?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So were there any nays? All right, so the ayes have it. So Eric, so now I would like to invite Eric to take over the meeting and all the meetings going forward.
Excellent. Thank you guys very much. I think that this is going to help us get through these meetings, a little quicker and with less confusion. So this was great. Select board was on board, so I'm glad you guys were too. Moving right along. Was everybody present for the June meeting? Enough of the quorum present for the June meeting to vote on the minutes? Yes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the June 8th Trails and Recreation meeting?
So moved.
I second.
Seconded.
Do we need to vote that? Yeah, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. So moving right along. In discussions with several of the, we're going to talk about the message from the Dover Select Board. So in discussions with several of my Dover select women, the feeling has come out that the group is not necessarily headed in the right direction, and that stems again from, you know, kind of disorganization and talking over each other and kind of the bickering back and forth. And you know, we're here to have positive and productive discussions about these topics, okay? But it needs to stay in that realm. You know, I had a select person who watched the last meeting and was definitely not impressed with the way the group kind of conducted itself. You know, when things are being discussed, just a reminder, you know, we need to deal with them in a respectful manner, even if it's not something we wholeheartedly agree with. You'll have your choice to voice your opinion, but I think it's the bickering back and forth and the kind of the snide sideways comments and things like that can get in the way of us being productive as a group. So I just wanted to put it out there that this group is a privilege to us. It's definitely not a right. I mean, we have the Trails and Recreation, you know, 5-year plan from Weston and Sampson. And from that, I mean, economic development can be making the decisions and moving forward on the projects as we see fit. Me creating this committee was me extending the olive branch to all the interested parties to say, hey, I would like your input. I would like your help. If at any point the Dover Select Board feels that that is not what is happening and that this is not a productive process, they have the ability to pull the plug on the group. I mean, it's in the rules, right? It says if at any time the Dover Select Board can cancel, you know, can stop this group from meeting in this public forum. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. Just a general reminder, I think Andy covered it a few meetings ago. You know, I am the moderator now, so if you have something to say, a question, a comment, please raise your hand. I will acknowledge you in the order that you've, you know, raised your hand. You can do that. If you're on screen, do it with your hand. If not, do it through the bottom, can we do that? Yeah, we can. It's in the participants link. So raise your hand that way. But I just wanted to get that message out there that we have to start working together. We have to start being productive when we work on these things. And that's what's going to make this group successful and, you know, stay together. Okay. Anybody have any questions on that? Awesome. Thank you all so much. Okay. So brief Valley Trail A- update. I met with Ross Gouen, who is our contact from the Vermont Department of Transportation. Our contacts at Fuss and O'Neill, who is the MPM you guys chose, as well as Richard Dickinson from Lamoureux and Dickinson, who is our engineer, who was appointed to this job back when it was first proposed. It seems about like 50 years ago at this point, but I got them all onto a Zoom call together and they all got their marching orders. And I think we'll see some real progress on it from this point. You know, one of the parties was dragging their feet a little bit. And I think being in a Zoom room with the other two made them realize like, oh crud, I do need to get moving on this. So you should see some really positive and momentous actions coming with Valley Trail A- here very shortly. Any questions on that? All right. Easy group. Okay, so now we're going to move into a discussion about the motorized vehicle trail use. And I think that Mr. Garber hoped to say a few words about this to the group. Mike, do you have a problem doing that right now?
Can everybody hear me?
We can.
Okay, excellent. So Shannon, I don't know if you can put up that trails list that we'll be dealing with today, because I don't really know all the trails on the top of my head. And Paul might have a list also. But we're here today to really talk about keeping the long-term integrity of these trails going forward. And so what I'd like to say is the Stump Jumpers, which I've been a part of for 20 years, have maintained most of the town trails for snowmobile use, as I said, for 20 years. And I know the stump jumpers have been around for 49 years, so I can almost say that we've dealt with taking care of the trails, maintaining them for 49, 50 years. I can't say, and I'm not pointing fingers, that the town has taken the same interest in maintaining those trails, although they've supported us maintaining them for the town. With that being said, the stump jumpers every year have to ask for permission from the town to use those trails. And snowmobiles really are a low impact on the trails because there's snow and ice on the trails to protect them. On the other side of things, and I'm not pointing fingers, motorized vehicles with tires ruin the trails as we're going forward in time with the weather patterns that we've had. So it's unfortunate that those people don't have to ask for permission, which probably is not fair when it comes to maintaining them. And what we're really asking for is during weather events, which one is being mud season, that we possibly temporarily close the trails to motorized vehicles. Now, I don't know how the town, what the town considers ATVs, because they're not, most of them are not registered to begin with. The stump jumpers have to deal with all the private landowner situations that arise when ATVs are going through the town trails, which of course lead to private trails. Registered motorcycles can sometimes be on those trails, and Jeeps can go on those trails. What we're recommending is at least through mud season, which is the end of April, which is the middle of April, when snowmobile season is closed, to Memorial Day, we shut the trails to public wheeled usage. We know that there are camps back there. We'll get the word out to them that they can still access their camps. But we think to maintain these trails like we've done, it would be beneficial to somehow get the word out that they shouldn't be used during mud events. And I could even consider this week being a mud event because the trails will just get ruined by a pack of cars or Jeeps going through the trails at the moment. So what we really are asking, if everyone is on board, is that we recommend to the town that possibly we temporarily shut down these trails during mud events. That's pretty much, so the first thing is yes, mud season, definitely April 15th to Memorial Day, maybe the week before Memorial Day. It's going to really be on a few of us to hang signs and ropes. That's really how we want to do it. Just saying trails closed for public use until we're not talking about gates. 10 years down the road, that might have to be an option, but not at this point in time. And that's really all we're suggesting. It's really about just keeping these trails in shape for everyone to use for the years to come, because the rain and the tires just don't mix. If anybody has any comments, please feel free to join in the conversation or questions.
All right. So everybody's had a chance to see this list of trails that Shannon had up. Okay. All right, Shannon, so we'll probably go back to full screen just so I can see everybody. Thank you very much. Mike, quick question for you. I mean, we're talking about taking this to the town. Who's going to be responsible for deciding when it's a weather event and who goes out and hangs all these signs?
Well, as I said, the first thing we want is the trails closed for mud season. That's necessary for the trails to dry out.
To motor vehicles, you're saying?
Right, to motor vehicles. I haven't even given it a thought when you have a weather event that's happening now where this week or 10-day period has caused the trails to become so muddy that it will take another week for them to dry out. And if we don't let that happen, all it's going to take is one pack of cars to come through and ruin the trails to the point where rain then gets in ruts and it makes it a mess. And we put serious machine time in. We spend a lot of money back there. And we just want it all to hold up as long as it can until we have to ask for money again and do this maintenance again, which we periodically do. So I'm not saying during these weather events. I mean, it's just something I thought of on the spot as it's happening. It should be considered. I mean, I could talk to the town. I could go to the board people or to Andy and make those kind of decisions. I'm sure I can work with the highway department to make those decisions. And that's kind of what my thought process was.
Okay. Andy, you had a question?
Hi. So it's a great in-person meeting here at the town offices. Shannon and I, it's a party. You guys are missing out.
I didn't want to set up the big screen.
So Mike spoke to me about this a little earlier, and I had some ideas. I'm not opposed to the idea. I'm not sure how much it will help, but I think it will help some. The concerns that I expressed to him were that we involve the road commissioner, Travis Briggs. These are town rights of way, and he's probably the right person at the town to talk to and get ideas about. I did mention it to him briefly. He said he'd definitely be into talking to Mike and whoever else is interested in doing something like this. I do think he would be the right person to make the call on when it might be appropriate and when it might not. My idea about Memorial Day might be that we should follow the National Forest Service lead with some of the trails they close, which is, I think, December, like last week in December to May 15th, a couple weeks before Memorial Day is what they consider mud season. But all of that stuff, I think this group doesn't necessarily need to make those calls. I think Travis is probably the man. He's our road commissioner to be making those decisions. Like I said, I'm not opposed to it. It would probably help in some instances. I'm skeptical about how much it would help. The chunk of woods we're talking about, for the most part, is accessible from Dover and from Wardsboro. A lot of the vehicle use comes from Wardsboro. It's impossible, like a property like Horace Hill, we know all the ins and outs. We can plug them all up. This piece of woods, we can't. And when you plug up the Dover ends, you're not plugging up the Wardsboro ends and all of the illegal ones that come off of private property. And some people will still have access to those lands, and they won't be Dover voters who are following the rules, which kind of isn't fair. But anyways, like I said, I'm not opposed to it. I think Mike probably has a good point. I think it should be looked at, and I think Mike getting together with the road commissioners is probably a good idea. Those are my thoughts over the past couple of weeks on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Mike Purcell.
Yeah, I think any notice is better than no notice, sort of like the speed limit in Vermont, right? You can go 50 anywhere unless it's posted, but you certainly can't act on it. But then anything whoever, that's a pretty broad, vague, we put up to indicate what people should not be doing will have to be coordinated with anything the National Forest has in place for that sort of thing, because a lot of these trails are, National Forest trails that you're talking about. On their border, they're the authority at that point, but I'm sure they'd have no problem, with some assistance from us to do that sort of thing.
All right. Thank you, Mike. I think.
Actually, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, one more. What happens with a lot of the various mountain bike networks is that they post all of this information on their websites. So they do try to put the word out to all the good doobies not to go places. So at some point, if we have some kind of posting, that should go to the clearinghouse to say, hey, everybody be responsible. And that can include those weather event sort of things. Like if you try to go to Kingdom Trails or a Scutney, they're saying, don't come this weekend. So it can help anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, those are things that can be shared from the town website, our economic development website, and could be shared with the Chamber of Commerce as well, to go out there. Andy, you have your hand raised again? Welcome back.
So one thing about that, one nuance about this particular area is if you publicly declare that the trails are closed to motor vehicles and now they're open to motor vehicles, you will have an exponential increase in the use of these trails by motor vehicles. My advice would be keep it super low key, like no public notice. Like if you find it, it's by word of mouth because your buddy knows about it. Like these people look for trails open to motor vehicle use, and that would create a horrible situation, really, and an enforcement nightmare. Just something to think through. Just something I figured I'd mention.
I actually, now that you say that, Andy, I do agree with you there. That's a very valid point. Tim, Shannon, public, you had a comment?
Yeah, so Mike covered one part, which was the mountain bike community, where trail advocacy is really important and in usership. And in events like this, where we have inches of rain and the trails are really soggy, it is a message that we do send out regularly. And there are ways that you can get trail closures posted on programs like Trail Forks and different mapping applications online. A second thing that I would bring up is, Mike Garber brings forward a point about a user group that is recreating on a piece of property that doesn't necessarily put in any time, volunteering work, or effort to maintain those areas. And Mike's bringing up a fact that might not be a problem, except for when really they're recreating in a time where it's really hazardous to that trail network. And we know this just from small mountain bikes, that when you start to go through puddles and the trails start to widen, that is a much more difficult and more expensive fix than if you just stay off the trails altogether when they're wet. So what I'd ask is that if there is recreation going on, is that something the town wants to continue to maintain? If there is a recreation group that needs an outlet like UTVs or ATVs, is there a place where we can provide a better use area that would get them into a place that it's appropriate, that doesn't necessarily interfere with something like the snowmobiling side? And just kind of those considerations for the group to think about as we look at what that issue is that Mike's trying to address. And then the last piece was that on Shannon's presentation, it did include Crosstown Trail and Valley Trail as motorized trails. And I just want to clarify, we're really talking about like Hathaway and Cheney Brook, not Crosstown Trail and Valley Trail, which and Horace Hill, which are non-motorized recreation areas already outside of any of the snowmobile overlap in the winter.
Tim, I think that's an excellent point. I will just kind of say, at least with snowmobiles, that's an activity that's very highly regulated and registered and tracked. Whereas, the ATVs, you don't tend to have a registration process or there's not as much accountability involved in that type of recreation as there is with snowmobiling. So I think it would be really hard. I completely agree with your point. And it is unfortunate that we may end up, bearing the brunt of the cost to repair, when they are out there. But unfortunately, the alternative is trying to police that, and we don't have a mechanism to be doing that right now either. So while I completely agree with your point, and I think it's a conversation we can have again down the road, I think what Mike is proposing is definitely a step in the right direction, at least to let them know, like, hey, we know that you're out here, when maybe you shouldn't be. I think the next step here is, as long as nobody else has any questions or comments, is Mike, I would recommend that you speak to Travis and just kind of put together at least a proposal to present, or have me present to the select board, requesting that we do rope off those trails for mud season and what type of signage there would be, what the timeline for that signage would be, and if we were going to do special weather events, how that would be addressed. And from there, we can put that in front of the Dover Select Board and they can make their decision on it. I'm in agreement. I think it would be a good thing to do. I think the Select Board would probably agree. But they're definitely going to want to know, who, what, when, why, how, before they give us a yes or a no. So if you had any intention of doing that for next week's meeting, we would need to know by Thursday. You would basically have to speak to Travis by Thursday and have something for us to get onto the agenda. And then by Friday, have those documents ready for us to send over to the Select Board to review. Beyond that, we'd have to probably wait another 2 weeks, which, I know it's a special weather event right now, but as far as the mud season thing goes, we have a few minutes on that. So if you want to wait until the first August meeting, we can do that as well.
There's definitely no rush
Okay.
because we have machines coming into the area in September. So we're really looking to start protecting this next year, although we did a lot of work last year. But I will talk to Travis. I will try to even coordinate that with Andy, and we'll try to get something out there in the next couple of weeks to the master board.
Awesome. Mike, thanks for coming to talk to us about it.
Anytime.
Okay. Next one's me. So just some brief updates, and they're going to be super vague because right now all of the information is super vague. There are state and federal grants that are in the pipeline that could allow us to, acquire some funds to help us, if not fully fund projects on Horace Hill, as well as provide us with, educational grants for outdoor and rec and things like that. So all of the information for a number of grants is finally coming through the pipeline right now. And once I have a little more solid information, I will definitely share it with you. I just didn't want to spring it all on you at once and say, hey, guess what? We're doing this thing. But we are currently looking into these grants. And as soon as I have more info, we will share it. Any questions? Patricia. There you go.
Grants for the Frisbee
Potentially.
thing, or just for all of it?
Potentially. So with any kind of outdoor recreation, really, trails, mountain biking, disc golfing, like everything, and those are just the three that I mentioned, but it's a pretty wide ranging scope. There's what they're classifying as like venues grant. So all of those things would typically fall under like a venue because Horace Hill would be considered a venue. Again, not a ton of information just yet, which is why I didn't get anything together to prepare for you. But yes, there's a potential that we could get a number of these projects, partially funded, if not more.
Okay, just because I saw a thing in the paper about the sawmill trying to connect, so.
Mhm. Okay. So now we get to the part of our agenda. Tonight I'm hoping that we can make our first formal recommendation for me to take to the Dover Select Board. Okay. This is a big step for us all. Let's take a deep breath and get through it. Okay. 7 of you were kind enough. I'm sorry, 6 of you committee members were kind enough to complete our doodle poll I sent out for the renaming of the Dover Town Forest. There were a number of options thrown out there. And I'll read through them quick for anybody who didn't get to see the doodle poll, maybe not on the committee, but it was the Philip E. Bartlett Memorial Recreation Area, the Philip E. Bartlett Dover Town Forest, the Philip Bartlett Recreational Trails at Dover Town Forest, the Town of Dover Phil Bartlett Recreation Area, Philip Bartlett Recreational Area at Dover Town Forest, the Dover Phil Bartlett Recreation Area, or the Dover Town Forest and Phil Barton Recreation Area. So 5 out of 6 of you that voted have recommended. Oh, Shannon, I didn't realize you had it up there. I wouldn't have read all the way through them. I was on Doodle. So 5 out of 6 of you have recommended the Dover Town Forest and Phil Bartlett Recreation Area. So we will go ahead. Once, Shannon, if you don't mind going back to the group, I would need a motion from a committee member and a second, and then we will put it up for discussion and then have a vote.
I move that we recommend to the select board that we use the name Dover Town Forest and Phil Bartlett Recreation Area.
Okay, can I get a
A
second?
Second.
Patricia, second. Any comment from the committee? Any public comments? Okay, Andy has a public comment.
Can I do it on my thing? I love it.
Awesome. Thank you for your input, Andy. Allison, you have a comment.
Yeah, and no, I apologise. I'm on duty in the inn and the phone went and I missed that little bit of the conversation. So could you just tell me what it was going to be called again?
So the motion was to name it the one you voted for.
Ah,
The Dover Town Forest and Phil Bartlett Recreation Area.
great. Well,
So
I
we have
obviously
a
agree
first
with
and a
that.
second on the floor. Let's all in favor of renaming the Dover Town Forest. Oh, Sarah, you had a comment. Oh, you're voting. Okay, thank you. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? No? All right, perfect. So I will take that to the Dover Select Board on Tuesday night. That's our first recommendation to the Select Board, guys. Great job. I'm proud of you all. Perfect. I put this on here and now I realize that most of the parties that I need to discuss this with are not actually on this call, but I'm still trying to coordinate this conversation between, Mike with VIMBA, your VIMBA chapter, Paul, you as well, but Steve and Jeremy, we got to get into a room at some point, right? And have a discussion about, how we can make all of these things fit together. So I'll reach out to you guys maybe with a doodle poll and say, look, here's some times that we can all get together and see when we can all get into a room and have the talk. All right. But just keep an eye out for that, and group know that is something that will be happening. Kristen, you had a comment.
Yeah, I just wonder, can any other of us attend? I think one of the things that I haven't seen a whole lot is winter sports experience.
Mhm.
So I don't know if anybody's weighing in for that or not, but I'd love to be able to attend that meeting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, maybe we'll get the poll out to, we'll send it out to the entire committee, as well as those interested parties, and get everybody in the room. Okay. Any other questions? Paul?
Just a quick thought, when we agree on a time, maybe it would make sense that we meet at Horace Hill.
Yeah,
If everyone that's attending agrees, I don't want to put any pressure, but if people are open to that, might facilitate some of our discussions.
absolutely. Great idea.
Bring your bug spray.
Okay, we're just cooking right through this thing. The next step is to discuss our future meetings format. So to remain in accordance with public meeting law in the state of Vermont, we can continue to meet on Zoom. However, we will also have to have someone in person. Tonight it was Shannon. It was going to be me, and she very graciously was able to help me because of a conflict in my schedule. But typically I will be at Dover Town Hall. Anyone who is interested in meeting in person can also come to town office.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Sarah. As soon as you raised your hand, I knew what I said. So I will be at town office, and anyone who wants to join me there can. My question to you guys is, would you like to keep this hybrid format so that if you are not able to attend in person, that you are able to attend virtually? Okay.
Like the single best thing that came out of the pandemic.
It really is. The other, I'll get to you in 1 second, Paul. I do see it. The other really great thing about this particular format is that it does allow us to record these meetings and have them available for public viewing afterwards. And to me, that's important because it keeps us transparent, and people, can hop in and converse with us if they want to. Paul, you had a comment.
So just a quick clarification for people that want to still join remotely, is that room in the town office set up for, a group to join to Zoom so the remote participants can also be in?
Yeah, so there's actually an entire setup in that room, right? With like this.
I was just lazy.
there's a
And
massive.
turn your laptop around so I can see the.
I'm going to, hold on 1 second.
Yeah, I thought so. I just wanted to clarify for the group, everyone knows
Yeah.
it actually is set up for that if,
You see Andy's screen, Paul, there's a big,
Andy-
Andy, big
giving you a
screen
tour.
TV.
and there's a big microphone and everything. Like, so we've been doing it for the select board meetings, and it's actually working out
It's
really-
Vanna White, Andy,
Yeah, right. Thank you, Andy.
Andy Vanna.
So I think as long as you guys are in agreement, Sarah, is that something you think we should vote on, or?
No, I don't think it's necessary. It's, yeah, no, because all we're doing is basically saying that we're going to conform to state stat, the new state requirement. So that isn't anything we would have to vote to not follow the standard,
Gotcha. Let's not do that.
right,
Okay.
Andy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Right.
Awesome. So, Patricia.
So I'm like 3 buildings down, so I'm probably going to start coming in to the meetings. Do I need to bring my computer? I'm just wondering how that works. I
No.
just show up and I sit at the table?
Yes. Yeah. So, or in the room, really. I mean, it's you saw the setup there. I think the only reason
I'll
Andy.
show you what it looks like. Hold on, when somebody's here.
Actually, when,
I can show up next time and
yeah,
figure it
Patricia,
out. But I
when
didn't,
the camera is aimed at the table where on Andy.
oh,
So
okay.
that screen, that shows up as one of the people in the Zoom meeting.
Mhm.
And then everybody else, just like what we're seeing now.
Yeah. If you see
And
Shannon.
and the table's mic'd, like where Andy's sitting now, there would be a mic in front of there. So everyone at the table would be on a shared mic. You wouldn't have to have your own laptop to connect into the meeting.
Okay.
That's how the select board's meeting now.
Cool, because it's convenient for me to just stay at work an hour longer and go there. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Okay. So with that, Paul.
Thanks, Eric. So just so everyone knows, and for the recording, what are the masking requirements and other protocols that are in place for in-person attendees in the town offices?
So Andy, I'm going to throw this out there, and if I say anything that's incorrect, please correct me. As long as you have been fully vaccinated, which means you've had either your J&J in 2 weeks or your second dose of either Pfizer or Moderna and your 2 weeks, you are allowed to enter the town office without a mask at this point. It is on the honor system. We're just trying not to get anybody sick. So if you have been fully vaccinated, you definitely can enter without your mask. Okay. Was I right, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if the select board has set any specific guidelines. I know in my office, even for unvaccinated, I simply recommend unvaccinated people to wear a mask because I don't want to get into trying to be the police. But I don't know if the select board has set up anything different than that for these kinds of meetings. But as far as my office is concerned, during office hours, if you're unvaccinated, we recommend that you wear a mask.
Because we can't ask people to demonstrate their vaccination status. It's the honor system. So, and the select board they voted to go along with whatever the state, whatever the governor's recommendation was.
Perfect. Okay. So with that, I will just ask, just a reminder, if any of you wish to discuss something, or if you know somebody who wants to put something in front of this group, they need to contact either myself or Shannon, in advance of us sending out the agenda. So the agenda for this meeting goes out typically the Wednesday or Thursday before, in order to meet public meeting law rules. We need to have this out at least 2 business days ahead of the meeting. So typically we have this out either Wednesday or Thursday the week before. So if you have anything, or you know of anyone who wants anything on our agenda, it can't happen the Monday before the meeting. Like, the agenda's already out, everything's already on it that's going to be on it. Okay, public comments are one thing, but if you want to have actual decisions made on recommendations, then that needs to go onto the agenda well in advance, so that when the agenda goes out, it's on there. Okay. So if you know anybody who's looking to be on there, if you have things you want to discuss, just keep that in mind. The earlier, the better we can get it on the agenda. Okay, Sarah, did you have your hand up? Okay, perfect. With that, I need a motion.
Actually, it was. I was going to make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, Sarah makes a motion to adjourn. Second. Second, Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Ahead of time, you guys are great. Thank you for being here, and we will talk to you all very soon.
Take care, guys.
Bye.